This is match Revolve student ID TRE 1600 3622. This is coaching A1 Resub. So the four different coaches, so we've got elite cricket, elite football, non-elite hockey and non-elite rugby. So the elite cricket, so professional cricket coach, so it'd be like Trevor Bayliss, the England cricket coach. The role that a professional cricket coach may utilise is being an innovator. This is because they may use different strategies of who to pick in their squad, depending on where a test match series is based and the conditions. As well as this, they may think of new ways to win games, which may include switching up the batting order. For example, in the most recent test match against Sri Lanka, 3 spinners were picked by Trevor Bayliss in the side to play against them, which included Jack Leach, Moeen Ali and Adil Rashid. This had a positive effect on the outcome of the series as the spinners dominated the bowling and took the majority of the wickets, leading to an English whitewash. This shows that the strategy of the coach helped massively in favour of the result because the coach decided to make a big decision by putting 3 spinners in the team, which proved to be very good as it had a positive effect on the end result. This role is more specific for an elite coach because they have more players at their disposal and therefore they can change strategies and game plans by changing up a team. This is different at the non-elite level because there is less players to choose from and therefore they can't use some of the same strategies. So, elite football coach. So the role a professional football coach may have is that of a manager. This is because the managerial side of football is what can win a lot of matches for a team, as this is the way the team is set out in their formation and also the different tactics they use in a game. This can have a big impact on the result, as if a team sets out the wrong formational tactics against the side, then it can result in a negative result for the team. An example where this has had a positive effect on the team is when Antonio Conte was the manager of Chelsea in his first season, and he introduced the 3-4-3 formation to the Premier League. This proved to be very effective as it had wing-backs who formed a solid back line in defence, and it provided width when going forward, giving a strong balance to the team. This tactic was used throughout the season in which his team won the Premier League. This shows that the formation used and the tactic that went with it resulted in very positive results, which then led to a positive outcome. Non-elite hockey coach, Meg Watkin. The role of a non-elite coach may be to motivate their players, because non-elite coaches tend to coach young people and therefore they need more motivation in order to reach the highest level possible and to train consistently. For example, for Meg Watkin as a hockey coach at Team BTC, her job as the coach would at first be to try and motivate people to play for the Team BTC hockey squad. Then, once there is a squad, she will have to try and motivate players to turn up to every training session and play and try to win games. As well as this, she would try to motivate the athletes to play to as high a level as possible and progress further than college hockey into regional and then national. Moreover, one of the more important roles she may have is to motivate the players to continue playing hockey outside of college and to continue it into university. This is one of the more important roles of motivation because the players should continue playing the sport and try to get as far as possible with it if they have potential, in order to stay healthy and potentially develop a healthy lifestyle and sport when they are older. Furthermore, Meg could motivate the players to become a coach one day by providing engaging sessions that players enjoy. Non-elite rugby coach, Ash Kempson. One of the roles of a non-elite rugby coach could be a role model. This is very important to set a good example to the players, especially in a sport like rugby where discipline is focused on a lot more. This is because if a coach is a bad role model and then players follow them, then that is going to be more negative for the sport as there will be more players like the coach. For example, if Ash teaches his Team BTC players to be dirty by stamping on players in a ruck, or to throw a little punch in a maul, and then that will be a bad example to set. This is because it will result in players thinking it is okay to do this, and it is tactical, whereas it is just breaking the rules of the game by putting other players in danger, which will result in the players receiving yellow or red cards and also potential bans. This would mean that the players won't get far in developing a career in rugby, as a professional will need to be very disciplined, as no professional club wants to be paying a player who is going to be sat out for half the season not playing due to bans caused by their own misconduct. However, if Ash decides to set a good example in discipline in rugby and how to play the game, and then there is more of a chance that the players will go further, as more clubs may want them and they may have a chance of progressing further in the sport. So, distinction part. The most important versus the least important role. The amateur. I think the most important role for amateur football would be to motivate the players. This is because grassroots football is a very broad network of young players from teams across the country. The likelihood of any player making it to a professional level is very slim for everyone. Therefore, I think that motivation is the most important because many coaches at the amateur level deal with young players. This means that they have a role to motivate their young players to reach as high a goal as possible, and they need as much motivation as possible in order to do this. This is because if a young player is very motivated to reach a high level, and then they are more likely to do this. The more motivation a young individual has, the more likely they are to make their dream a reality. This is because they will be more likely to train every day in order to improve themselves as they are more motivated to achieve that end goal. If the coach gives no motivation to the players, then they aren't going to be able to realise their potential and then potentially go on to do better than they could. This would be negative because it may mean that a player who has all of the potential to reach a professional level never makes it as their own coaches let them down. I think that the least important role for amateur football is an innovator. This is because it isn't all about winning and therefore isn't as important to think of new ways to beat opponents. Furthermore, as a coach at the amateur level, there is less technology and staff at their disposal. This means that they don't have the research and therefore the knowledge to try new techniques and ideas that may beat opponents. As well as this, unlike elite coaches, they don't have information on opposition players that they could use in order to create new tactics or ways of overcoming that player and beating a team. Moreover, the training of the amateur game isn't as intense as elite football. This would mean that the coach doesn't need to incorporate new techniques into training, as they would just do simple drills that many amateur coaches know of. Lastly, amateur coaches aren't full-time professionals. This means that they can't spend all of their time on coaching, and they'll have a full-time job alongside coaching. This would result in them having little time to research new techniques to add into their coaching, resulting in them having no new tactics or techniques. Whereas an elite coach will spend all their time researching different coaching techniques as it is their job which they get paid for. Elite. I think the most important role for an elite football coach is the manager side of the coach. This is because at the elite level it is all about winning, as that is what they are being paid to do. This means that if they stop winning games, then it is more than likely the coach is going to get sacked, because at the elite level, football is more of a business, as clubs get prize money for where they finish in the league, and the higher they finish, the more money they get, meaning the clubs have to finish as high as possible. Furthermore, the game is played at a lot of a higher level, and therefore tactics are required in order to help to try and beat the other team, as all of the players are professionals and therefore they do all of the basic skills almost perfectly. The tactics will vary in each game along with the formation in order to get the best result. For example, if a mid-table team are playing the team at the bottom of the league, and then they will probably go with a more attacking formation with an attacking tactic to try and get forward and score as many goals as possible, as the opposition are less likely to be as good at defending. On the other hand, if the same mid-table team are playing the team at the top of the league, they will now be the underdogs and therefore they will play a more balanced formation, possibly with more defensive options, in order to try and stop the opposition from scoring. As well as this, they may play a defensive tactic, for example the park the bus tactic, where they will sit with a deep defensive line with as many people back to defend as possible, in the hope that with the amount of people back the opposition will struggle to score past them. Moreover, managers don't necessarily have to be a role model, as the elite athletes have usually gone through the process of having a role model, and they are the role models, but they should be motivators to the squad. I think that the least important role for an elite coach is a role model. This is because they are the coaches of professionals. This is because they while the coaches are professional players who are at the top of their game. Therefore, by getting to that level, they have already had their role models. For example, a young player may use a professional they like as a role model in order to try and follow in their footsteps to make it as a pro, meaning that when they do eventually become a pro, they have made it and therefore they won't follow their role model as much. This is because role models are more influential in young people because they still have things to learn and aspirations that they want to achieve, and therefore they use role models as a way of motivating themselves to do this, which is why it is important to be a good role model as an amateur coach when coaching young people. This means that elite coaches who are coaching professional players won't have many players who see them as their role model. Most versus least important responsibility. Elite. I think that the most important responsibility for an elite cricket coach is professional conduct. This is because as a coach at any level, you are representing your club and therefore should always remain professional. However, at the elite level is a lot more important because elite sport is publicised in the media and games are viewed on TV. This means that anything an elite coach may do that is not deemed professional conduct may be used as a story by a form of media, meaning that it is out in the public for everyone to see, and the club will be affected by this as well as the coach. This is different to an amateur coach because they will still have to maintain a professional conduct, but this is in order to maintain a good example to be set to their players. However, they don't maintain professional conduct, and then it is unlikely that much is going to come from it, whereas at the elite level there may be fines. I think that the least important responsibility for an elite cricket coach is health and safety. This is because they are coaching professional players who are aware of their own health and safety and what needs to be done in order to prevent themselves from getting injured. For example, this may be wearing correct personal protective equipment in the nets, like helmets and pads, as they are facing fast balls of up to 90 mph. Furthermore, there are many coaches in one training session as there are fielding coaches, batting coaches, bowling coaches, and other backroom staff such as the physio. This means that there are many people who are observing the training sessions, meaning that there is less chance of someone getting injured in the session. However, for an amateur coach, it is most likely there will only be the one coach, or at most there will be two. This is because amateur coaching is volunteering and therefore there aren't as many people who would do it, or some people can't do it because of other working commitments. This means that they would have to be a lot more cautious because there aren't as many people watching over the session. Amateur. I think the most important responsibility for an amateur coach is making sure that they stick to their legal obligations and they have the correct checks carried out on them. This is because many amateur coaches in cricket will be coaching children. This means that they have to be DBS checked, especially to make sure that they have no previous convictions and are safe to be working with the children. This is very important because if they don't have this, yet they are working with children, and then it's putting the children's safety at risk. The impact of this is that it may result in children not continuing to participate in the sport, and also there may be a risk to them in general. Furthermore, the coaches must be aware of and adhere to the Children Act 2004 so that they can spot signs of abuse and neglect and report it. This is extremely important because playing for the team could be some of the only social interaction the children get, and therefore, if it isn't reported, then the child's safety is at a big risk, as without it being reported, abuse will continue. This is different to elite coaches because they will tend to deal with professional players. However, it may occur for an elite coach if they are working with academy teams and players. I think that the least important responsibility for an amateur cricket coach is professional conduct. This is because for an amateur cricket coach who may be coaching young teams, it is not all about the winning and more about the developing of the players' skills so that they are better adapted to when they are older and start to play more competitively. This means that a coach who isn't showing professional conduct is unlikely because they aren't going to be as competitive and they may not be as bothered about winning, as that isn't what it is all about. As well as this, if a coach doesn't show professional conduct, and then there isn't going to be much that comes of it. This is because at an amateur level things aren't publicised as much, meaning that they aren't going to get the same punishments that an elite coach may receive. The only bad connotation that may occur with not showing professional conduct is that it sets a bad example for players on the team.